Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Dreams Unlimited Travel podcast. A few weeks ago, some members of our team had a chance to go on a special 2-night pre-inaugural sailing of Royal Caribbean Cruise Line's Anthem of the Seas, the newest ship in their fleet. And today we're going to be discussing that experience, sailing on that cruise, as well as our thoughts on taking a Royal Caribbean cruise in general. But first, I'd like to start by introducing our panel this week. And I am joined by Tracy Heinrichs.
Hi.
She is our agent consultant. Next, we have Kevin Close.
Hi, everybody.
He is our client services manager, and he's also our Adventures by Disney specialist. Next up, we have Teresa Eccles.
Hello.
She's the manager of our Welcome Center in Port Canaveral. She is also one of our agents who specializes in Disney cruises. Also joined by Corey Martin.
Hello, everyone.
Who is the webmaster of Dreams Unlimited Travel. And we are lucky enough to have our crack technical team working with us today. Associate producer, what is it? Associate producer, Rhino Clavin.
Hello.
And producer, Craig Williams.
Hi.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you, guys, for watching. Really appreciate it. So we want to talk about this experience we had, this really great experience. We want to talk about the ship in general. There's not much to talk about the itinerary. It was a 2-night cruise to nowhere, basically. We went out and just went out to sea far enough so that they could sort of open the casino and then sailed around and then came back in. But this was a cruise that was designed specifically for travel agents and media to see the ship, experience it, and hopefully bring back some information to other folks and share that with others. I believe there was one more short sailing after ours, and then there was actually the inaugural sailing of that ship. So it was very cool to do. It was out of Bayonne, New Jersey. Lovely Bayonne. We all enjoyed it very much. And one of the things that sort of was the start to the whole trip was I was very impressed by how the check-in process worked. We checked in online. We'd give all our stuff online, as you usually do with Royal Caribbean. But when we got to the port, we were greeted by folks with iPads. And they asked us who we were, took our ID, swiped it, took our picture, and said, okay, you're done.
I think that was a little confusing to people who cruise regularly because it's like nothing you did. When I first got out, I thought, what is this chaos? And it was all very easy, and I didn't believe it was actually what was going on. So I think the more people do it, the more that information gets out there. I think people will be more receptive to it. At first, weren't you kind of...
I just said, she said, you're done. And we all went, well, what do you mean we're done? Where's our card? How come I'm not signing stuff? Right. How come I'm not filling out forms? And she explained that your room key will be waiting for you at your stateroom. And we all looked it was very, very weird.
Right.
We all, didn't believe her.
Well, how's the information going to get on my card? Right. And it's like, oh, no, it's already on your card. I just did that.
The online check-in was really important because you can even upload your own photo.
Right.
So they already have you all set.
Or they took our photo curbside, which is incredible. And then what was really cool is we did get to the stateroom. When we got to the stateroom, our room key was waiting for us outside of the room in a little holder. And then when we went in, on the bed waiting for us was a packet of information. And in that packet of information, Kevin is showing that we got what is basically kind of like a Disney magic band. It's an RFID band that gave us things like access to the room, worked as your room key, but also your credit. So if you wanted to buy something in the store, order drinks at the bar and things like that, it was kind of neat.
It's got a very low profile also. It's not at all thick.
I actually wore mine for the 2 days on the cruise. Normally, I don't. Normally, like with a magic band, I would tie it around my wristlet or something. But with this one, I actually wore it.
I found it a little snug. It's not.
Yeah, it kind of worked for me. The thing with these, I thought they were free. Like when we got them, they were because we were on a special cruise. But in actual fact, they charged for them. They're $4.99 each.
Wait, if you don't return them or
No.
from the beginning?
From the beginning.
Really?
So you get your room keys, but if you want to purchase these, they're purchased for $4.99 each.
Now, with that said, your room key works just fine.
Yes.
You can use it to get in and out of your room. It's all RFID. The whole ship is RFID for anything you want to do. Works very well, which surprised me. So you don't have to buy this.
And you would still need your room key to get off of the ship as well. Like this isn't going to be your ID when you're in port.
So that was a thing that kind of was the first impression. I thought that was very cool.
I thought it was
kind
very
of just
modern.
Sort of walked on the ship. It was very well done, very well run. What did you guys think of the ship when we first got there? Like the exterior, the
I didn't really get to see a lot of the exterior. Usually you get to see the exterior of the ship when you're at port, but I think when we came in, it was kind of blocked. We were like very close, but the interior of the ship, I thought I was checking into a luxury hotel.
Yeah, it struck me more as a hotel. One of the things that really surprised me about this ship is there don't seem to be many grand spaces. Where you get like on the other Royal Caribbean ships that have the promenade where you can pretty much see from one end of the ship to the other. This was more of a upscale hotel or a shopping district. It was.
Yeah.
I think it makes it much more intimate.
So they called it the promenade, but it still had this sort of, like you said, a smaller feel, more intimate feel.
It was much more boutique than grand cruise ship.
The decor of the ship really reminded me of the Contemporary Hotel.
Very much.
You know, the colors, there were a lot of like browns, and it was just completely different than any cruise ship. No neon happening.
I was going to say, well, this is very elegant and upscale. It doesn't have the glitz, the Las Vegas glitz of another cruise ship. This is more, in my opinion, more tasteful. But that's
I agree. Of all the ships we've been on, Royal Caribbean ships we've been on, this was the classiest, I thought, as far as design went. Then we actually got a chance to go to our stateroom, which was very nice. These staterooms are a little bit smaller than Disney Cruise Line staterooms, which most folks are used to. But what really impresses me about these staterooms is their balconies are so big. They have one of the biggest balconies in the fleet. They're also very well laid out.
I was just going to say they might be smaller, but in my opinion, they are better designed than any other cruise ship I've ever been on. It's much less, as I said, glitzy, but everything had a spot and everything was just very well laid out.
I love the wardrobe and that, like, around the headboard and stuff around the beds. So you had your drawers there, you had your closets right there. I really liked how it was all designed.
There
And
was
the
more
desk
storage
area.
than on
Definitely.
any ship I've ever been on. And we had a balcony stateroom.
Right.
This had as much storage, I would say, as some of the suites we've been in.
Yeah, we had plenty of room. I shared a room with Will, so we had our beds divided, but there's a difference of like maybe, I don't know, 6 inches.
Yeah, you could still spoon. It wasn't far enough. That's right. You could definitely still spoon with those beds.
That picture is deceiving.
Yeah,
That
it
space-
looks farther.
That space creates a shadow. If I rolled over, the crevasse did not make a
Exactly. It
difference.
was not a different. It was like, oh, there's a lump in the bed. It just didn't
They're
make
not
a-
when separated as a kind of a subjective term.
Yes.
Right.
And while these staterooms were smaller than Disney, I actually found they were a little bit larger than some of the other Royal Caribbean ships I've been on in that same
Well, I
balcony
think
category.
again, we talk about the square footage is smaller, but I think the use of space was much better.
Yeah, I agree.
I think also designing it from the ground up gave them a true flat screen TV that was against the wall, as opposed to
The thing
other
that
ships.
surprised me about the flat screen TV is it didn't move.
Apparently there was a way, somebody told me later, I couldn't figure it out in my stateroom, but when I was doing the tours, there was a way that you could unclip something and then it would move.
I only had a
didn't
day and a half. I didn't have time to be unclipping
but
things.
I saw one of the salespeople did it when we were doing the stateroom tours, and I saw her do it.
So you could make it
You could make it-
viewable from the
right.
sofa.
Yeah.
I will say about the bathroom though, like this is my first Royal Caribbean cruise. I've cruised Celebrity before, but never Royal Caribbean. I am used to the 2 separate bathrooms.
Yeah.
I enjoy that feature on Disney Cruise Line.
There's also something else too. You travel with kids, so
Yeah.
I think that feature is more important for people with younger kids. For Kevin and I, it doesn't make a difference. I'd rather have one big space. I enjoy that better.
I thought everybody liked split bathrooms. But when we were doing the stateroom tours, there were some people who would be in the rooms, because a couple of the rooms did have split bathrooms, some of the suites, and they'd be like, ooh, a split bathroom, I hate that.
I'm going to be honest with
So
you. It's
everybody
not
has a different-
It's not my big thing.
Yeah.
I prefer a little more room in the one.
I-
But again, John and I travel together, so it's like we're good about sharing a bathroom. If I was traveling with someone I didn't know or someone I was friends with or kids, I would want more room.
Right.
You
yeah.
have to have the split if you've got kids because
Yeah, if somebody's in the bathroom, you still have the option to brush your teeth
right.
or take a shower.
There's also, again, storage in that bathroom was incredible.
Yeah,
What they did with
it
the
was.
storage in that bathroom just made it feel so much bigger.
And this is a cruise line shower.
Right.
It was beautiful. Great water pressure. Heated up instantly. barely enough room to turn around.
They're the kind they're like capsules with the sliding doors. I actually prefer them because I hate the curtain that always ends up being wrapped around you or up against you. But
Clinging to your face.
exactly.
That's what I don't like about
see.
Disney's split bathroom. You have to shower in that bathtub, and there's the double curtain. There's like the cotton curtain, and then there's that one that's made out of magnetic human skin contact. Exactly. So the minute you get in, you are completely enveloped in this
right.
sort of slimy shower curtain.
It's like a horror movie. And speaking of staterooms, one of the nice things about this particular sailing was they opened up every category of stateroom for us to get a chance to look at. So we had a chance to do a nice tour of them. I know Tracy did it, I did it, and Corey did it. And one of the things is I noticed is that obviously they get bigger as you go into the suites and stuff, but they didn't seem to compromise going down. Like as you went to an interior stateroom, they seem to have just as nice layout and things like that. And one of the things that Royal Caribbean does, kind of stole from Disney, but they do the virtual balcony. So a whole wall in an interior stateroom is a virtual balcony. You can see outside of the ship. It's a camera pointed outside. But in these staterooms, you actually have a remote, and you can adjust the camera 365 degrees so that if you're in port and you happen to not be facing, say, the land and you want to see what the land is, you can turn the camera and see.
I think
the
that's
window.
really cool.
I really enjoyed this feature.
Yeah,
When
me
I
too.
saw that, I mean, it's massive. It's not just a little porthole.
It was the whole wall.
If you see the
well,
photo,
it was the size of a patio door, really.
I think you can see it right here. That's
Yeah.
not a window. That's the virtual
That's the patio,
porthole.
yeah.
Or the virtual balcony.
Interesting.
And I think it even had a curtain that goes over it, just like a
Great.
balcony would. As somebody who stays in insides often when I cruise, I thought these inside staterooms were pretty cool. And having that view to the outside,
Yeah, that helps.
yeah. And being able to adjust the view.
That's nice.
It was really
That's
cool.
Nice touch.
I thought it was great.
And they put a spray bottle in there so the person that's sharing the room with you can spritz you with sea spray.
It's raining. And then we had a chance to see the larger staterooms. They're very proud of their suites, and they showed off all their suites. Kevin and I usually travel in what's called an owner's suite. And one of the things we liked about this ship was they changed the design a little bit. Now it's more like two separate rooms,
It's actually like a one-bedroom apartment.
like a one-bedroom apartment.
And the
right?
reason we like the owner suite is John and I are not big show people. When we go on a cruise, we actually spend a lot of time in our stateroom. And having a sitting area and a dining room table sort of makes it more enjoyable for us. This, they've actually, instead of being one big room with a curtain that you pull across, there's enough of a wall that you would seriously consider this a one-bedroom stateroom.
And this stateroom, too, also had two bathrooms, which was really nice.
It had a bath and a half.
Bath and a half,
It had a
right.
full bathroom with shower and tub and stuff like that. And in the main living area, there was a half bath.
now is this different from the lofts?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
The lofts are usually two-story. The bedroom is upstairs. We're looking at a picture of one right now, and it's very, very cool. In my opinion, Kevin and I have stayed in the loft suite before. There's a lot of wasted space.
Actually, the day we checked in to the loft suite, we went down and asked if there was any other stateroom available. There's a great deal of open area, but it's not usable. It's a 20-foot ceiling, but you still have the same amount of furniture that you have in a regular stateroom. So it's not like all of a sudden you've got, extra places to sit or places you can have people sit and visit your stateroom. It's a lot of room, but it's not a lot of useful room.
They're
as far as I'm
beautiful. They're
concerned.
absolutely beautiful staterooms. They look great when you first walk in. They're very impressive. But from a functionality standpoint, I don't find them that useful.
Did you tour those studios? Did you see any of their studios?
Yes.
They have, they're designed for single travelers. So you don't have the same single supplement that you would have in a regular stateroom. And they can sleep two. But if you brought a second person, that second person, instead of paying half of a double, would pay what a third or a fourth person would be. So they were really cool. They were really good options
They're
for
small,
single
but
travelers.
But what's
They're
in there?
small.
Don't they? There's not a lot of room in them, but then they have like a
It's-
living room, a shared.
No, not with Royal.
What's the square footage on that? Do you know? Is it really tiny?
Not off the top of my
No,
head. I don't know.
I
but
don't
we
know
can
the
look
square
it up.
footage off the top of my head, but it wasn't much. It wasn't a whole lot smaller than a regular interior.
No, I know in Norwegian they
Norwegian
have
does that.
and then
yes.
they have like what they call the
They have
living
common
room.
areas. Yeah.
Now, that leads actually to the next conversation, which is Royal Caribbean has now pioneered these family suites, which really, really impressed me. I was blown away when I saw one. It has sort of that single room when you first walk in, and it has its own door, but then it opens up to a regular actual junior suite stateroom, and then there's a connecting door to another stateroom. So you can have, what is it, up to 8 people?
And some of even more, I think, the way that they interconnect. You can have like a different combinations, junior suite, balcony. They were really cool.
This is something that really impressed me because we hear all the time, families want to travel together and larger families want to stay together. The idea that everyone's kind of in the same room, but not really, I think was very impressive.
This offers a great deal of flexibility with that too, because I'm sure they lock off and can be sold separately.
Yes, they can. Yeah.
And that interior room that has the virtual balcony as well. So that's really cool for the kids who are staying in there. And then we saw the other things too. We saw the grand suites and the really big rooms. And these are very cool and very impressive.
The 2-bedroom family suites, the 2 bedrooms.
Yeah.
They're really cool.
Really cool, very impressive, very well done. Decorated wonderfully. I thought so.
Yeah, I thought the theming of the ship kind of came right through into the staterooms. A lot of very classic, elegant.
I was just going to say, I think it's much more, I hate that we keep using this word, but it's much more tasteful, in my opinion. It looks more like a home than a cruise ship, like a high-end home than a cruise ship.
Are there any standard, when I say standard, balcony staterooms that can hold 5 people? Or is it 4?
No.
They're maxed out at 4?
And there's very few on Royal Caribbean that can sleep 4 as well.
Really?
So with Disney, every category sleeps 3. It's not the same thing with Royal Caribbean. Royal Caribbean, there's more doubles than anything else. Getting into triple and quad space is really hard to do.
Okay.
There's some options for 5, but generally speaking, you're into the suites. They do have some family options, but they're very few.
Our stateroom had the double beds that you could make 2 beds or 1 bed, but then it also had a sleeper sofa. But it was not the sleeper sofa you're used to.
Right.
One of the ones that the top flipped over and the bed was underneath it. It didn't fold out. So it wasn't even a twin bed.
Right.
So ours was a triple. Getting back to the balcony for just a second, I can tell you that ours was big enough that John and I had 2 easy chairs, more like just a lawn chair. But then we had ottomans that went with it, and we could both sit in the chair with the ottoman in front of us facing the water. That's how deep they were. And
Not all balconies will be that deep, though. Just the way they design the ship, some will end up deeper than the others. So different categories, just so that everybody doesn't expect to get that deep of a balcony with every balcony's category, they will vary a little bit.
it's nice to know that that's an option.
It is, yeah.
So we talked about how these interiors are beautiful of the staterooms, but I think you said it too. It sort of reflects the sort of common areas of the ship as well. I want to talk about some of those. Again, we had a 2-night cruise. It was all very, very fast, so we kind of ran around and tried to see as much as possible. But I got to tell you, the things that I saw really, really blew me away.
Just so people understand, while you say 2 nights, we checked in at 1 o'clock and had our muster drill at 4 o'clock. That was the first night. So we had 1 full day where
Yeah.
you woke up and went to sleep on the ship.
Right.
And the next morning we got
Right,
off.
exactly.
away.
There's a lot to cover.
So let's talk about some of the common areas. What was your guys' favorites? What did you look at and go, this is really cool or different to this particular cruise?
The music hall.
Yeah.
That music hall was incredible. Somebody had told us it was designed after the House of Blues.
Yes.
And so it was 2 stories. The one evening they had an 80s cover band in there. They were phenomenal. Like, they were really good. Yeah. This wasn't cruise ship entertainment. And speaking of music, I found there were so many places on the ship where there was live music happening. And you don't realize how much you miss that from other ships until you're on a ship with it.
This was a massive difference from Disney. I'm going to compare this a lot to Disney because that's all I've really done. But this was a massive difference as far as the entertainment goes and the common areas, a lot going on. There wasn't a single kid on the ship.
It's a much more adult Royal Caribbean. That's, I think, why John and I like it so much. There's a more of an adult vibe, but we're not traveling with any kids.
I think you also have to understand, too, that this was a special sailing.
Right.
There will be kids on other sailings.
I was shocked at how much space they allotted to this music hall.
Yeah.
It sits right in the middle of the ship,
That's great.
and it is 2 stories, and it takes up. You have to walk around it to get every place.
I'm not a bar person. I'm not someone who goes, let's go into a bar and sit down and have a drink. We went in there like 3 times and had like a soda. It was just really cool, well designed.
It's not just one open area. There were little sitting areas, and all of the furniture was different. I know that sounds weird, but you might be up in a corner and it was all one kind of furniture. If you went 10 feet, it was an entirely different sitting area. with an entirely different theme. It was very well done.
And I'm a night owl. So, being on a Disney cruise ship and things start closing down around 12:30-ish. I mean, this was up till 4 a.m.
Now, this is also the dance club, the nightclub,
Right.
the live music venue. This is not the theater, but would be in any kind of nightclub area on any other ship. This was it.
Yeah.
The great part about this area, though, was like on the second floor, like you were saying with the different furniture, there were areas where there all of a sudden would be sofas set up. And so you could sit in this, sofas and chairs and have a conversation, even though you're in a nightclub with live music happening. You weren't necessarily in this situation where it was loud music where you couldn't have a conversation. It was just really, really unique and probably one of my favorite places on the ship.
I agree. It was beautiful. The other thing on this ship, every Royal Caribbean ship has to have something new and different to sort of bring in new crowds. And on this ship, they have what's called the Northstar. And this is the giant glass bubble, kind of like the Ferris wheel that's in Orlando or London. And you actually ride in that bubble, and it goes out over the edge of the ship, and you can see the ship, or if you're in port, you get to see the port.
Wait, it drops down sideways?
Here's the thing.
Or no?
I was disappointed. I didn't do it, but I was disappointed in what I thought it was going to do. I thought it was going to bring you over the side of the ship and kind of dangle you over the water with like a clear floor and like, oh no, if it falls, I'm dead.
That's my impression of what it was supposed to do.
No, it just
Never
kind of
did
just
it.
goes up and
straight
down.
up and down.
Oh,
You
that's
do get 360
boring.
degree views up there, but it does just go right up and down.
Well, in all the marketing, it shows it going off the side of the ship.
Yeah.
though.
I know. And I don't know if on the Quantum, the Quantum was the first ship with the Northstar. So I don't know if on the Quantum they did that and maybe thought it didn't work, because on the Anthem, I think it was just straight up and down. And everything I've seen from the Anthem, the pictures are only of it straight up and
Now,
down.
also, you have to know that this only holds a couple people.
Right.
Unlike the London Eye, where you can get 20 or 30 people in each.
I think a capsule, I'm trying to remember, I think they said 14 or 16.
Here's the deal, though. They're going to weigh you.
You have to
Yes.
be weighted.
Yeah.
So it
I was out.
depends on, we all said we were out. But it really depends on how
Anything
much weight
that
they
is
have,
required
how many
to
people
know my weight, I'm not doing
Right.
it. Or sign an insurance waiver.
If lying about my weight is going to result in me dying, I'm out.
This is right over the main pool area, so I would expect to wait in line. This is going to be popular.
Right. One of our agents had a chance to do it. Beth Zada was on our cruise with us, and Tracy, what was her sort of impression?
She really
of it?
enjoyed it. She wanted to do it. I was like, yeah, I'm out. But she went. She enjoyed it. They had given us special passes so that she could bypass the line a little bit. But she loved the views from up there. She said it was very smooth. That was one of the questions I asked. Like, when you're going up and down, is it kind of a jerky thing? And she said it was very smooth. It was good views. Their long time in there was a little bit shorter just because of the type of cruise it was.
Just like an elevator.
You're not really.
It's a glass bubble that takes you up off the deck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At sea, it's probably not as cool as being at port, where you
Right.
can see more things around
Right.
you, because
you
you
also-
go up, you just see more water.
You can also get a 360-degree view from the deck. Exactly. You just have to turn around.
You can also book the Northstar in advance. So when you're doing your pre-cruise planning, you can make your appointment so you don't have to just stand in line as well.
This is not.
It's not my
draw.
thing.
This is not a selling point.
Not
to
my
me.
thing.
I agree.
Yeah.
So speaking of other outside areas, they have the pools like any other ship. The pool areas were very nice. We didn't go in any of the
I really
pools.
like the solarium area
That was
on
my
this
favorite.
ship.
They did something that is so brilliant in the solarium area. I think they did it in the regular area too. They've actually put chaise lounges in the water.
Yeah. Just real quick, talk about the solarium is actually the adult section of the pool area. 18 years of age or older get to go into the solarium. There's a bar in there, and there's service. There's also a restaurant in there that's different cuisines depending on the time of day. But yeah, this is an incredible space.
We tried the healthy cuisine.
We went and had burgers afterwards.
We went to Johnny Rockets afterwards. One of the nice things about the solarium, as someone who travels as an adult, is there are different levels of hot tub. It's kind of a cascading effect where the hottest ones are at the top and they get progressively cooler. So the ones at the bottom were less warm for people who find hot tubs a little too intense. And I thought
Or disgusting and gross.
Or Tracy.
Yeah.
something else they had in the solarium, which was very cool. They had an adult swing.
Well,
What?
they had a swing.
It was a tile
adults
swing.
Could
It was
fit
great.
on. It wasn't an adult swing.
That's a whole
I chose my words
I
carefully.
know you did.
It's a swing that is suspended from the ceiling, and it's wide enough for two people to sit on. And I mean, you're not going to
Do
get.
they weigh you first?
No, you didn't even have. There was no one there checking anything.
Okay.
However, I do imagine if you were the person who broke the swing, the humiliation level would be high.
In addition to the music hall, there's other venues on the ship. There's their regular auditorium type of space. We'll talk a little bit about
Cruise
the
ship
shows.
theater.
Cruise ship theater. We'll talk about the shows in a minute. But there's another area on the ship that's very, very unique just to this class of ship, and it's called 270. TWO 70, and it refers to the fact that there's 270 degrees of view.
Actually, the 70 has the little degree circle next
Right.
to it, so it's 270 degrees.
And this is on the back of the ship. It's a beautiful space. It's a place where you can go during the day and just sort of hang out and get drinks or read or enjoy the view of the ocean.
You know how you guys said the music hall was your favorite? I thought this was the most unique space on any ship I've ever been on.
I love how they bring nature inside the ship. There's a lot of areas with plants and greenery.
Fresh flowers.
Yeah.
A lot of fresh
The
flowers, on
flowers
board.
on this, I don't know that will be.
I
an
don't know either,
ongoing
but
thing.
that was really.
They were. As a matter of fact, I took
stunning.
my picture next to a couple of them. They were pretty spectacular. I'm not showing them now, but they were pretty spectacular.
In the evening, there's a show. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to talk about the shows together a little bit later once we get there. So be prepared.
So in that space, there's floor to ceiling windows, right?
Right.
And then when we went at night, that's what became the screens.
Screen for the show.
Right. Because at night it was like
actually,
you're in a
those-
totally different spot.
They became opaque. You couldn't see through
Right.
them, but they were not the moving screens.
no,
They
no,
were-
no. But they were. Yeah, I know what you mean.
We'll talk more about that later. There's, in addition to areas for adults, there's areas for kids as well. There's the lounge for teens. A lot of these areas for us were used for other places for media production, so we couldn't get in and take pictures. But Royal Caribbean does a really good job with sort of providing those spaces for
One
kids.
of the things that surprised me is the teen area is usually tucked either up on the highest deck on the back of the ship, or it's usually on the lowest deck way over in the corner.
Right.
The living room with the teen area was right at the entrance to the buffet, to the Windjammer buffet. So it's direct. It's right
Because they
in
know
the middle of
teenagers need
everything.
direct access to food
Right.
at all times.
Well, I also think it's kind of like I like the idea that it wasn't hidden.
Right.
I like the
Yeah.
fact that it was right out there in the open for everybody to see what it was.
I think Royal Caribbean is making really big strides in their kid programming. They're not at Disney level yet. They're just not. But they're getting closer.
They are.
There
I
are
also
times
think
where
they're-
there's things that you're paying for more. So there's different aspects to a kids club on Royal Caribbean ship. But I think as they keep building new ships and they keep moving forward, I think they're just getting closer and closer.
I also think they're doing things more for kids that aren't in the youngest.
I think so
levels.
too. Yeah.
We're going to talk about some stuff that, and while there's an extra charge to it, Royal Caribbean is much less expensive than an all-inclusive
Yeah,
Disney trip.
that's right.
But there are things that are going to appeal to your tween and teenager that I think other cruise ships aren't doing.
Right. When I have clients ask me about kids and ages, and I think the younger children on a Royal Caribbean ship are going to have a harder time.
I agree.
Those with smaller kids. I think this is they're really trying to capture that maybe 10, 11, 10 to 13 market
little more
and higher.
autonomous.
Right.
Yeah, I think so.
Absolutely. That actually brings us to the next area, which is the Seaplex. This was something that really I thought was awesome. This impressed me. This is their flexible space. And during the day, depending on what their activities are, the space actually changes to accommodate it. First and foremost, there's table games. There's like ice hockey. There's some video games. It's two
Air
levels.
hockey.
There's an Xbox
What'd I say?
room.
Ice hockey.
Oh, sorry. There's air hockey. No, there's no ice. There's air hockey. Say again, Corey. I'm sorry.
And there's a whole Xbox room. So if you just want to play video games the whole time, there's a whole room just for that.
And as you can see from the picture, it's used as a sports court.
So there's a main floor that's for basketball, and then at one point during the day they change it over and it's roller skating.
Roller skating.
Roller skating is available, and then what I thought was the coolest thing was at another point during the day they change it and it's bumper cars. So they actually lower the bumper cars out of the ceiling and they push them out there and you can go and ride in the bumper cars.
Did
I
you
thought
do
that-
it?
I did not do it. We actually got there as they were putting them away, but I thought that was a really neat.
This place is massive. I just can't even believe, how huge it is.
They have dedicated a lot of space to this.
Yeah.
We had about 36 hours on the ship of useful time, and that included sleeping and eating.
Right.
So,
So you know where our priorities were.
right, we slept and ate really well, but you couldn't get to everything. We tried to see every space, but you couldn't participate in everything.
Did they weigh you for the bumper cars, you think?
No, I don't think they were. There might have been a height requirement
But there are bumper cars for you to sit in.
to try.
To try. So you see, once they have a test seat, I know I'm out.
I thought this was incredible.
The
This was
reason
a
I
great
saw the
space.
bumper cars is the hot dog stand was there.
Exactly. Let's go find the hot dogs. Oh, look.
Oh,
Here's
look,
an
bumper
area.
cars.
All right, so let's talk about things like the food that's available. Beyond the main restaurants, which some of us had a chance to experience, there's also a lot of places to eat on this ship. We talked about the hot dog stand that's next to Seaplex. In my opinion, not very good. Wasn't my favorite thing we tried.
This is very esoteric, but it's because they use the wrong kind of hot dog roll.
Yeah.
You get more like a hoagie roll, so the hot dog to bun ratio is wrong.
It was a cruise ship hot dog.
No, well, actually, they have like 6 or 7 different kinds of hot dogs.
Really?
Yeah,
Sausages. and
sausages,
Wow.
Germans, Coney Islands, but they put everything on this hoagie roll, so it's the wrong ratio.
And all this is out of pocket, right? It's not included.
No, the hot dog
No.
place is included. It's
Yeah, so if you talk about some of the places that are free to eat, there's the hot dog place, the buffet,
Which,
the 4 main restaurants. There's Sorrento. Is it Sorrento's?
Sorrento's Pizza.
Sorrento's
Right.
Pizza
when
in the
Tracy
promenade.
says the 4 main restaurants, the Anthem does not have a main dining room.
Right.
They have 4 restaurants that are kind of connected.
They have dynamic dining. They
That
call
are
it.
they take the place of the main dining room. So you have your choice of the 4 different food styles.
But let's go back again that there are some that are included. Obviously, your main dining is included. Some
There
of
was a
these-
cafe at that 270 that was included where we got the roast beef sandwiches. Found those the first day.
That's also
So there
when-
are so many places to eat that are complimentary.
Okay.
And then you get into the paid stuff. So there's specialty restaurants to pay. There's Michael's Pub where you could pay. Jamie Oliver has an Italian restaurant on board.
There's a-
Chops is there as
A
usual.
sushi place.
Sushi.
There's Johnny
Presumably.
Rockets. We pay. Now, again, in my opinion, though, the price for Johnny Rockets is so low
Right.
that it's negligible.
The sushi restaurant is Izumi, and the sushi is unbelievably less expensive than you would pay any place on land. The two people can eat for $10 or $15 and have a full meal of sushi. So the prices are considerably less.
I want to talk about what I loved about the buffet. That it's not a single row where you have to wait in line, even if you don't want something in that row. It's like broken up into little pods.
One of the
There's
things
soup
is-
and American.
The buffet is open for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So if you don't want to eat in any of the main restaurants, you can go
Actually, part of it is open 24 hours a day,
that little sort of front area, cafe area.
which I think that's amazing. Because sometimes when you're busy on a cruise ship, it gets to be 8 or 9 o'clock. And if you've missed the main dining room, you're kind of down to a cheeseburger or a room service.
If you're lucky, yeah. That's my biggest thing I love about Royal Caribbean is that I can eat when it works for me.
Right.
I can eat what I want, when it works for me. And again, comparing it to Disney, when we do our podcast cruises on Disney, we're working at weird, strange hours. We've got things going on. I can't tell you how many times I have to eat chicken fingers in that week.
Oh, I know.
Because
Oh,
there's just
God.
no other option going on. But I find with Royal Caribbean, just about any time of the day or night, I can find what I want or something without having to be stuck by that time. And as far as dining goes, especially, I kept calling this cruise the anti-cruise because it's like everything you know about traditional cruising is out the window. And it's just so much more flexible.
I think that's
choices.
one of the things I loved about
Me
it.
too.
Was that
Absolutely.
even from check-in, this
Yeah.
was different.
It was just unconventional from the beginning. And this cruise also, in addition to media people, had some of like the Pinnacle Club. They were special invited guests. And these are people who've sailed over 700 nights on Royal Caribbean. So these are your diehards. And many of them were a little bit lost. They were a lot. There was a lot of grumbling coming from them. But you got to remember, to sail 700 nights, chances are you're hitting 60, 70, 80 years of age, because that's a lot of commitment. And so they've been cruising for a long time the same way.
If you're not open to change,
Yes.
this might be difficult. If you are a diehard cruiser and you're not open to something new, I think this is a new paradigm.
Let's talk a little bit about the food. Kevin and I did not go to the restaurants.
But there was a choice for that. There was a reason for that.
Right.
There was a bunch of us, and other people were.
Right. We decided that at one point listen, we were going to go do kind of what we normally do on a cruise, which is Kevin and I would go to the buffet. We have some shots of the food on the buffet. The choices were incredible. I have not seen this many choices on a cruise ever, on any cruise I've ever been on. One night was beef Wellington.
We had beef Wellington off a buffet, and you would stand there, and they would bring out this beef fillet wrapped in puff pastry, and as they stood there and sliced it, it disappeared. I mean, people were like, yes, more, more, more. It was delicious. But then, within seconds, there was another one. I found the food really, really good.
Anything from salads to charcuterie to you can have something specially made. One night was homemade quesadillas made to order. The buffet blew me away. It was absolutely incredible. Now, the rest of our team went and did the dining room. However, they did something different on this cruise. They wanted to make sure you experience some of the food from each restaurant. So I'll let you explain, Tracy, what happened.
So what they did was that they called it a tasting menu. And so basically what it did was it gave us samples from each restaurant. So they would say, you would have the choice of 3 or 4 appetizers, and they would tell you what restaurants they came from. It's the American Grill, Chic. There's an Asian place. There's Silk. Thank you.
American Icon.
The American Icon, Chic,
The Grand.
Silk, and the Grand.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so they, each item was from there. It was really, I liked everything we had. Now, there's certain restaurants, if I was doing a regular sailing, there's certain restaurants where I probably wouldn't go to. And so I would book ahead in the restaurants that I would. In general, I found the food in the main dining room probably a little bit better than what I've had on other Royal Caribbean sailings. In general, I also find Royal Caribbean main dining room food to be a little scaled down compared to, again, Disney, just because there's so many more options to eat at, the more specialty restaurants. So I find you're not getting your best cut of meat in the main dining room, things like that. But we were really happy with what we ordered.
Yeah, I did my fair share of escargot on the last night.
Yeah.
I found the food in the buffet better than any ship I've ever been on.
Yeah.
Now, there is something to be said for the fact that we were all invited.
Right.
So there's always the possibility that this would be
Yeah.
Right.
special for us.
Right. That wouldn't be typical of what you see, but I can't imagine that they would do that.
Well, they've got to fill that space with something.
Right.
One part of the buffet was nothing but a bakery. And that's the first thing you see when you walk in. And John says to me, I don't need to go any further than this.
Did you find some of the food that was offered to you a little bit exotic? That's something that maybe you might not have tried?
No such thing for me.
Yeah, I did a little. There were
Yeah.
some things on the menu from the other restaurants. Like Chic is probably not a restaurant where I would go. And so I found they would be a little bit outside of what I would normally order. But the great thing is for people who are more adventurous than I am, like I know Chris and Ben would have loved that, being the different restaurants to have the different choice. Can I talk a little bit about dynamic dining and how that's working?
Sure.
So with dynamic dining, it's kind of, on the other ships, they have my time. Dynamic dining, you rotate through the 4 different restaurants. So you can do that in a couple different ways. One is you can book in advance and you're pre-planning, and you can decide that you're just going to, maybe every night you're just going to book American Icon. You can do that. Or if you want a dynamic dining classic, you sign up for that early or late, and then they rotate you through the 4 restaurants. And then you would just, similar to the way Disney would do rotational dining, they would do the same thing with that. So there's a couple ways to do it. You also don't have to book it in advance. I don't book anything in advance when I cruise. And on the ships, there's 2 lines. There's people with reservations and people without. And so on any of the Royal Caribbean ships I go on when I do my time, I don't book in advance. And so I may have to wait a little bit longer, or maybe that day I can make a reservation for that evening once I know what my schedule's like. And again, that's one of the things I love.
Also, Royal Caribbean has signs where you can touch dining, and it will tell you which restaurant at the time you're looking at has availability. It'll tell you what percentage it is full. So if you say to yourself, listen, I'm really hungry right now, And I don't care where we eat. You can find a restaurant that has openings. If you're looking for a certain type of food, for instance, you're interested in the Japanese restaurant Izumi, you can find Izumi and see when it's going to be when there's room available. It's very cool. You can also do this from your stateroom television.
One of the things I think happens is people are in that mindset of I have to plan every minute of my trip ahead of time.
That's because Walt Disney World has
Right.
trained you that you have to know 6 months in advance that you want to eat at Liberty Tree Tavern.
And one of the things that I like about Royal Caribbean in general is that I feel like we don't. That we have that option of we could go to a specialty restaurant tonight, or we could go to the buffet, or we could go to the main dining rooms. So I like that option for Royal Caribbean much better.
Before we go on, the specialty restaurants were not available to us. The specialty restaurants were for invited guests only. So each night there were people who had been invited into a specialty restaurant. And I think because the Pinnacle members were on the ship, I think a lot of that went to as a perk to a Pinnacle member. And trust me, if you've booked 700 nights, you deserve to eat in a specialty restaurant.
I agree. Let's talk a little bit about the entertainment. I know you went to the main show.
We did. We went to see We Will Rock You.
Excellent.
And I've seen that on land more than once. And I thought it was very comparable. I didn't love the guy that they had in the lead acting as much, but this is Broadway quality.
We Will Rock You is the Queen musical.
Yeah. And
based on the music of Queen.
it was full length. Like I was expecting like a 45-minute version of it. It hit just under 2 hours, I think. Like it was a full
That's
length.
a long show for a
It
cruise
long
is.
show.
It was a full length, full on production. And I thought it was really, really well done.
Did you get a chance to see that, Corey?
I
you
did not. No.
Yeah, Kevin and I opted for the casino show is what we did.
Yeah.
We would go to a casino on a regular cruise. So we thought, let's go to the casino. We enjoyed it very much. It's a good size casino, if that's what you're interested in. It had everything we wanted to play. It seemed a little empty, but I think it was the crowd that was on that sailing.
I also think again, while there's no huge sight line where you can see from one end of the casino to the other, there seemed to be. I know that doesn't look like that in that picture. That picture doesn't really talk about what I'm suggesting, but it seemed like the casino was broken up into smaller areas, which were a little more.
Well, I think you can see that sort of terminates there, and then there's more to the casino beyond that. All right, so I've been specifically leaving this to the end of the entertainment. The entire cruise, pretty much all you kept hearing was, you have to go see the nighttime show, Spectra's Cabaret. It's in the 270-degree area of the ship. We talked about that being, during the day, this beautiful open area. But over the speakers, the captain would come on and make sure you go see it. There's no spaces left. You're going to miss out if you don't get to see it.
And they convinced us because we made a reservation for it.
We did. We
And
panicked.
we are all anti-cruisers. We make reservations for nothing.
And I was like, we're going to miss out on the best thing on earth.
That's right.
We ran into Corey and Will at one point, and Will thought this was the best thing he's ever seen. So we thought, oh my God, we have to go see this.
So they showed it more than once.
Yes,
Like
each
100
night.
times.
Will and I actually just walked in. We didn't even know what was going on. We're like, what's that music? So I think it was halfway done, and we saw the screens kind of moving and people coming up out of the floor.
Now, if you see the circles in the ceiling, they play an important part of the show. People drop out of those.
Right. So I'll try to give a little bit of explanation because it's kind of hard to define. Spectra is your host, and you're at his cabaret, and there is singers and dancers and Cirque du Soleil-like performances all going on sort of in front of you and around you. And there are 5 giant screens. Do you remember how big these screens were?
No, they were massive.
They were huge screens. And they kind of...
I'm guessing like 8 by 10 each. They were huge.
feet by 10 feet.
Yeah.
8 feet by 10 feet. And they played projections and they moved independent of each other and did this sort of ballet. That was very cool. The rest of it, we kind of all looked at each other like, why are we still sitting here? Why haven't we left
Of the
yet?
5 of us there, 4 of us were underwhelmed. However, one of the people in our group kept saying to me, don't you think this is the best thing you've ever seen?
It's a matter of opinion, I guess.
I
Do you
kept
wanna
saying,
do-
When y'all
Describe-
said y'all made a reservation, I'm like, yeah, you made a reservation? Because we were there. It was kind of empty.
They
Did you
weren't
not
letting
hear
us
the
in without it.
Corey, oh my God, it was like we were.
and it wasn't just the cruise director. The captain's name was Captain Close. I all want you to know that. I thought that was very cool. Captain Close made this announcement several times.
If we didn't do it, we weren't going to be part of the cool
Right,
kids.
you were gonna get off the ship, and people were gonna pelt you with rocks.
And we almost had to give blood samples to get in to prove it was us with the reservation.
What's your stateroom? Who are you
Yes.
with? So explain a little bit of what you remember from it.
Spectra. Do you know what Christmas tinsel looks like? Spectra was a middle-aged man wearing a Christmas tinsel jacket and no
Get
shirt.
pictures of this?
He was
No.
fabulous.
And
I think we were so in shock.
We're in shock.
he
Forgot
didn't.
to
He
take
didn't
pictures.
have a shirt.
Well, they asked us not to, too.
And you know the
Wait. He didn't wear a shirt?
no, just a Christmas tinsel jacket and the tightest pants you've ever seen. He looked a little bit like Annie Lennox, Gear from Norway,
I'm
and Liza
picturing.
Minnelli.
Okay, I'm picturing
That's
Joel
a good
Grey or
description.
something. I
You
don't know.
know
bit younger.
the lights that they use when they're directing traffic at Disney?
Yeah.
He had one that was about 3 feet long, and he did the model walk.
That would have
where
been like
his-
a lightsaber.
kind of, but it was red. And he did the model walk where his hips were the first thing that entered the room and his shoulders were back. And he walked around the space screaming, "Hit me with your rhythm stick."
Hit me.
Was this adult only? Thing?
That's what I was wondering, too.
I don't.
It didn't seem like it would
It
be
wasn't off
inappropriate for
color.
kids. It was
He
inappropriate
didn't
for
say
me.
anything off color. However, it was.
me with your rhythm sticks?
This would have
Okay.
been.
That's a song. He was using it.
Oh, that was on the radio. This would have been the most exciting thing you've ever seen in 1982. And that's when the music was from. I mean,
They did the conga.
they did Come On Baby Shake Your Conga. They did the Sugar Hill Gang rap. Like, we're not talking modern rap, we're talking original rap. They had Cirque du Soleil performers. And what did he keep calling the singers? These are my music oracles. And the music oracles dropped out.
I don't
of the
remember that much
ceiling.
about the show.
Right, and like people would drop out of the ceiling and spin on wires.
You know how they
Other
spin
people
on
would
those
pop
curtains
up.
in Cirque du Soleil? There's a lot of curtain swinging. And the stage goes to different levels, and people pop up here and people pop up there. Technically, this show
Yes.
was spectacular.
That's what I would say.
The technical part
Yeah.
of it. I would suggest you see the show for that. I would suggest you see the rest of the show just for the hoot factor. This is get a couple of boat drinks and enjoy the show. But there wasn't any music that I would say 1985 was the music. That was the last date of the music they used.
And then at one point, they're all doing their stuff and spinning and singing and popping out of the floor. And he gets a giant oversized drink and just starts stomping through the audience with this big oversized drink in his hand.
And again, doing that model stomp where his hips were out in front and his
So the idea is he's the lounge host. Like we've all come to his cabaret, and he's the host. So he would interact with certain people. We made sure he avoided us.
Exactly.
But he would interact with certain people, and it was bizarre. It was so far out of anything that I would ever choose to see. But like Kevin
I think
said,
you might have to be drunk.
At one
the
point,
technology.
they turned
the-
on a black light and the characters all had on day-glow costumes, and they did the
It was very
conga.
trippy,
Yeah.
especially with the screens. I was checking out trying to see the technology behind the screens because each screen had a robot behind it,
Not
kind of
only-
moving, and I was like, "That's kind of
Amazing.
neat."
The
But
screens are
also
amazing.
the stage going up and down and the people coming
Yeah.
up and down out of the stage. At one point, he was in this giant net and he looked like the Little Mermaid, and it was like, you're not supposed to eat tuna because they get caught in the nets. I wasn't quite sure what the message was,
Wow, you paid more attention than I did.
Wow.
I didn't hear that.
but
But honestly, it was like nothing I've ever seen on a cruise ship. Like
You should go.
Right, the technology involved, the performance factor.
Go for 5
these
minutes
were
and then
these were
walk out.
artists as far as like what they were doing on the trapeze and the Cirque du
Right.
Soleil stuff.
And you can walk in,
They
and
were-
the bar is open even during
Yeah.
the show.
Right.
and this gentleman was chosen to perform for Simon Cowell's 50th birthday.
That's what the sign said.
They told us that a lot.
Was Simon impressed with this? I mean,
I didn't get to talk to Simon. I read this on a sign.
Simon wasn't there
it
telling
just
us
seems
birthday.
very busy.
It was.
That is
Yeah,
that is
that's
Like
a great word.
overload,
Yeah.
kind
That
of.
was
Here's
a
the
great
deal.
word.
On a 2-night cruise, I kept thinking we could be in the casino. On a 7-night cruise, I would think this is fun.
It's something to
Yeah, so that was just weird. So the other thing that was kind of the big deal on this ship, one of the things that's in all of the advertising that they talk about, and they talk about it quite a bit on the ship itself, is something called the Bionic Bar. And this is their robot bar where the robots are making drinks for guests. I witnessed it from afar. Tracy had a very good point. It was positioned in one of the worst places.
You're right.
It was like right in the middle of a thoroughfare, so it created this bottleneck.
And not a lot of people were ordering the drinks. A lot of people were standing around watching this happen.
And when you think about a robot bar, think about like those scenes you see of a car production line, and they have those arms that are welding something and then screwing a screw. So there's two of these arms. It was actually kind of neat.
It's not like one Rodney robot shaking your drink.
No.
Have you ever bought paint at Home Depot?
Yes.
It's kind of the same principle. The paint goes under the thing and the little machine goes boop, 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 and then they put it on the shaker, and then you have your paint. That's kind of what this is.
And you can order your drinks through iPads. Like
Yeah.
they're like these iPads.
And you can create drinks too, right?
I played. It wouldn't work for me.
Right.
We
And
tried to
most
get
of
it
the
the
most
first
of the
day.
crews it didn't work.
Yeah.
Now, I do have to tell you, I was told a story that when the Quantum first set sail, they had to shut this down for 6 months because the robot would forget to put the top on the shaker and would soak everybody within 20 feet. So that it's now working. When this worked, it created havoc in a very major thoroughfare on the ship.
Yeah, it would just totally block traffic because everybody would be sitting there watching, and you couldn't walk by. And it was like a corridor. It was like the upper part of the promenade.
I thought it was going to be like a bar where
Me too.
like maybe there was like a dance floor and then like this was the bartender.
Yeah,
Like a bunch of
couldn't you see that
robots.
happening in the center of a bar?
Right. Yeah. Exactly. But things going on around it,
Right.
and like they say, it's mixology meets technology. Well, that's exactly what it is. I wanted to try it because I wanted to see how strong the drinks are. Because you can ask a bartender, hey, even though everything's kind of pre-measured, can you add an extra shot in there? Or is it...
I also thought this was going to go, like, do the Tom Cruise thing in Cocktail.
Speaking of the 80s.
Oh, and like flip the cups?
And it doesn't go get the bottle of alcohol. The bottles of alcohol are hung from the ceiling upside down. So I'm not joking when I compare it to the Home Depot paint section. It goes around and the bottle goes psst, and puts the stuff in.
It's actually, I thought it was very neat. It was very cool to watch. I'm hoping we can get a video up of it so folks can see what it looks like. And the only other thing I want to say too is if you are very, very anxious to drink, this is not the place to go.
That's right. That's right.
They actually have a timer of how long it will take you to get your drink.
It's kind of like the deli at Publix. It tells you you're going to be ready and you can order your drink in 22 minutes. There are 17 people ahead of you.
Also on this sailing, the bars were open. It was free alcohol.
Oh, yeah.
So
That could have a lot to do
that
with
could
it.
have had a lot to do with
yeah.
it too.
However, I think in general, people are going to want to order drinks there.
Yeah.
All right, so real quick, let's wrap up this conversation. I'd like to find out, you guys, what did you think overall of the ship? We can't really talk too much about the sailing itself because, again, we didn't go anywhere. But as far as the ship in general, what did you think, Tracy?
I loved this ship. As soon as I got home, I didn't even get off the ship. And I was texting my husband and saying, we have to get back on this ship. All I can think about, I was looking at itineraries actually this week. This out of New Jersey, it's going to be sailing out of New Jersey for a while. It's doing some Caribbean stuff. And there's a little bit of Canada, New England stuff happening.
Bermuda.
It's doing 5-night Bermuda sailings. So there's some opportunity there. And I cannot wait to get back on that ship.
I was ready to rebook while we were on the ship. One of the things I remember, you asked me what I thought was cool. At one point, there was a place where you could put your hands, and this was in like a main lobby area. And there was a chandelier overhead, which it was hundreds of the old Edison bulbs, but you put your hands on the hand thing, and the chandelier flickered to your heartbeat. So you could stand there and watch your heartbeat.
See if
through
you
the
I might
a-
have done
your
that at 4
regular
a.m.
heartbeat.
Oh my God, it's not working. Just really good.
I think I was so excited about this ship. I think this ship is lovely. And because we only had 36 hours, I didn't get to explore all of the things. I think they've fixed a lot of things. I'm going to give you a small example. Johnny Rockets in other places is a small little contained diner. Johnny Rockets is now on the regular pool deck, and while Johnny Rockets sits off in a corner, the whole pool deck is their seating area.
Right.
So I think they have taken they've listened or realized where bottlenecks were and have fixed things. I was very excited about the ship and would have gone back. If they had told me I could have stayed on, I would have stayed on another week. I didn't have enough clothes, but I would have stayed on anyway.
Really. Corey, this was your first ever Royal Caribbean cruise. And I realize it's not a typical cruise, but what did you think?
I thought the ship was beautiful. It was very elegant. There's a lot to do. I mean, I can't see having a lot of downtime on this ship. There's a lot to do, whether it's selections of places just to hang out, lounges like Vintages. They specialize in wine. You go to the pub,
They
have beer.
They sell tapas in Vintages also. I don't know if you knew that.
There's so many little places to do for adults. Now, bringing young kids on here, I was walking around going, okay, I just want to bring Julie. Julie and I would have a great time, but not with our kids. But they're 5 and 6. I want to say that.
We should also
I think
point
your
out
kids
too
are a
that-
little too young.
Just to point out too, there are DreamWorks characters on
Right.
board, and there's
We saw Princess Fiona a lot.
right. There's DreamWorks Experience. There's I think there's a breakfast.
And we weren't able to see the kids areas on this ship.
Right.
So in fairness,
But I agree. I feel that it's a little bit older child as well.
You use the word elegant. Would you also add the word comfortable?
Oh, 100%.
Elegant but comfortable.
Yeah.
Excellent. If anybody is interested in booking a Royal Caribbean Cruise Line sailing, you can write to any of us. Our email addresses are on the screen as you see us, but you can write to me, John, at dreamsunlimitedtravel.com, and I will make sure that you get to one of our Royal Caribbean Cruise Line experts. And speaking of our experts, each week at the end of every show, we're going to do an agent spotlight, and we're going to highlight a couple of our Dreams Unlimited travel agents, so you get a chance to meet the folks who can't be here personally in the studio and record with us, but maybe you could put a face to a name for your particular agent. So we're going to do two today, or we're going to do one today. Thank you. And we're going to start with, or just be Tammy Omar. My plan here was I was going to read these, but that's a little far away. So I'm going to do Tammy lives in Rhode Island with her husband, Kevin, their 3 beagle girls, and cat Coconut. Not the only crazy cat agent we have, Teresa.
Yeah, I know.
Her
I
other
love
ones
Tammy.
there. Her hobbies include bike riding, spending time near the ocean or mountains, family time, and traveling. Her favorite vacation spots are Disney and anywhere in the Caribbean. Besides Disney destinations, Tammy specializes in Royal Caribbean cruises and sandals and beaches, all included reservations. So vacations. So you can write to Tammy at tammyo@dreamsunlimitedtravel.com if you'd like to get a quote or start a conversation about a vacation to any one of the destinations that she specializes
Or
in.
beagles or cats.
Or beagles or cats. I think you said bagels. So, talk to Tammy.
No, that's me.
All right, so that'll do it. We really appreciate everybody watching and listening at home. I appreciate you guys on the panel participating, and I hope you guys have a great vacation.